live on stage. The sound
of Orlando.
So, if they ready, the sound
of Orlando.
You know.
What is going on, man? What's good? What's really hood? What is going on out there, man? It is Super Bowl weekend, and we are the Sound of Orlando. This is the Soul Show, the Sound of Orlando show. And tonight you can see me rocking a special design by my peoples at Ill Bill, man. Please go check them out. They're an amazing clothing line. Cutting edge. They're always talking about, there's a message on their material. They don't just make clothing, they make the purpose, they make a message, man. So check illwillpunkx.bigcartel.com out for some real designs. Also, Tom Sons, if you need a mask and you got to wear a mask, make sure it is fashionable. Straight out of Manhattan, my peoples. Check out my man George at tomsons.com. 5 generations of just fire material. Check them out. Also, 5stargraphics.com. Jesse Jazz, a local legend of promoting, DJing, and printing. You need anything custom made, graphic design work, flyers, business cards. Go check the man out at 5stargraphics.com. Now, welcome to the Soul Show. This show is all about hip hop. It's all about celebrating not only our legends from Orlando, but our legends abroad, our heroes from abroad. And this week has been a great week for DJs, man. We've had all kinds of DJs on. Shout out to DJ Jamad, repping Atlanta. Shout out to DJ Tap Money, repping Philly, repping Pennsylvania, and now we got my man, one of the first records I ever bought was a U.T.F.O record called Roxanne. And these guys, were just incredibly dope. They were costumed up. It was just like, and the beats they were rocking were just insane. Shout out to, the designers that were designing this idea. Shout out to, all the people that were involved, in making this sound that U.T.F.O was unique to U.T.F.O. Rest in peace, educated rapper, Kango Kid, Doctor, there's so many, stories behind what U.T.F.O meant to so many people. You may have seen them in the Houdini video. They were just a completely amazing addition, the youth of that movement for hip hop at that time. And it was just a special occasion. Well, this man right here, Hall of Fame DJ, everybody wanted to cut like this man. Like this man just had these clean, concise cuts that were just amazing, dressed like a damn ninja. It was just amazing, what he represented for DJs. It was just like superhero stuff, man. And what can be said about this man that hasn't already been said? He is a legend. He's still doing legendary things, representing New York City. Let me give it up for my brother, the one and only, the legendary Hall of Fame DJ, the infamous Mix Master Ice. Let's go.
Yeah. I love that, bro. You hit right there, boy. You hit it hard right there, bro. I love it, man. I love it. It's a pleasure.
Man, bro. It's an honor and a privilege to have you on because, like I said, I was a part of that wave that was coming in. And so my first buying of records was your records. And, it was just amazing to hear what you was doing on them turntables, then to see the tricks that you were adding to it. Prior to the DJs before that, they weren't necessarily doing what you were doing. So like you were just showing showing your ass on the damn turntables, and we loved it, man. We loved it. It was a great thing for hip hop, and you guys made some of the dopest records that could have been made at that time, and you guys stood in your own lane. It's not easy having a group, but you guys made that look like it was the thing to be. Like you just wanted to have a posse like that. But welcome to the Soul Show. Welcome to Orlando. I'm so honored to have you on. And before we get, into what you're doing currently, let's go back in the past. Let's talk about how you, Mixmaster Ice, first got, introduced to DJing, and, how did that spawn into you getting into one of the world famous groups of all time?
Okay. First off, on your platform, it's a pleasure to be here. Shout out to all the listeners out there that's listening now or may hear this in the near future. Salute to everybody, and thanks for all the support of myself and U.T.F.O, Kango Kid, Dr. Ice, rest in peace, educated rapper, and myself, Mixmaster Ice, U.T.F.O. We appreciate all the love and props that we've gotten over the years and continue to still get. So thank you all, and thank you for having me on this platform. How did I start? Just being in New York. I grew up in the East Flatbush section of Brooklyn, born in Harlem, and my mom moved to Brooklyn when I was 3. So I was raised by Brooklyn, and raised in the East Flatbush section of Brooklyn. And when hip hop started taking off in the 70s, just being engulfed in that whole culture, you just gravitated to it. And
Right.
Personally, my first inception in the hip hop was as a rapper. I couldn't break dance. I knew that wasn't going to happen. And the graffiti wasn't going to work too good for me either. But rapping, that's just a little knowledge and just a little rhyming. So I was doing that at first. I didn't have no equipment. I was 14 at the time, and so I started writing rhymes a little bit. And I'm going to just fast forward a little bit so make a long story short. But I met the educated rapper around 1980. He had moved here from London, and he used to stay on my block a lot. He had a cousin that lived on my block. So that's how I met him. We found out we had a liking for hip hop together. And myself and educated rapper started a DJ group called the Jamalot Crew. There was a couple of other guys in the neighborhood that was involved with us. And our humble beginnings, it just started with one turntable and then one mixer. And then this guy had a turntable. This guy had the records. This guy had the basement. We could keep everything at. So it was just a collective effort of how we started the Jamalot Crew. Fast forward a couple of years, we wanted to transition into being a rap group. Because I used to rap a little bit and party rock, and educated rapper used to rap and party rock too. But we wanted to transition into a rap group. So we was having auditions. And Kango and Doc came to the audition. Kango actually came to the audition. I think he brought Doc with him. I don't even think Doc was rapping at the time. And make a long story short, from that audition, we ended up starting a hip hop group, and we changed the name to Untouchable Force Organization. Right. And from there, Full Force got involved with us to produce us. Now, Kango and Doc were dancers. At the time when we first met them, they were break dancers, real dope break dancers and pop lockers.
Right.
And they actually toured with Houdini.
Right.
83, early 84. They used to be on the road with Houdini when Houdini had their first project. So they was already getting a taste of the road and the business ahead of the game before we even was making records.
Right.
And, once they had ran with them for a little bit, when they came back home, we started working on records. Full Force producing us, of course. And first record was Beats and Rhymes. And
right.
Then, that did okay. And then the next record was a song called Hanging Out. The B side of Hanging Out was Roxanne. And that's how the whole Roxanne picture came into picture. But, just to touch back based on how I started DJing, it started from me rapping and trying to be a DJ that could rap. And that's, back then a lot of DJs were party rockers, or you had to have an MC with you to rock the party. So I used to do that. And then I went to a high school called John Dewey. And there were some guys in there, maybe a grade or two older than me. they was DJs. I wasn't even DJing yet. And they would cut school and hang out at Mega Evans Projects. I think that's where they were from. And they'd be up there practicing. So me hanging out with them, I told a little lie, told them that I knew how to DJ, which I didn't. And I ended up getting invited to come hang out with them one day.
Wow.
Go there, Mega Evans, and cut school. I never had done no 1 and 2s ever. So these guys were doing ciphers. This is back in 1980. They was doing a turntable cipher. And what it was, they had a turntable set kind of in the middle of the room, and it was 5 of us. Everybody took turns after every 8 bars.
And if you a DJ and you ain't never did that,
yes.
You never DJ'd.
Yeah.
Man, I remember those days, man, and it would go on for hours sometimes.
Listen, so check what happened. So I peep game. I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. So it's 5 of us. I get at the end of the line, and I'm trying to watch everybody's hands and what they doing so that when it's my turn, I can get on and do it. Make a long story short, I couldn't do it. So when I get on, I fumble tremendously.
Yeah.
And this is how I became a DJ. Them guys could have clowned me. They could have made a fool out of me. They could have kicked me out of the house and everything. But they didn't. One of the guys embraced me and he was like, hey, don't worry about it, man. Let me show you how it go. And he showed me a couple of things. And I didn't know what I was doing, but that touch of their turntable and that touch of that mixer just was electrifying. I knew that day when I left there, this is what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be a DJ. And it was because of them guys not clowning me and not making a fool of me and showing me a couple of things. I went home, I said, I'm gonna DJ. And and then I'm meeting the educated rapper around the same time. So it went from one turntable and he had a turntable and he had a mixer. That's how the Jambalaya crew started. But my beginnings of DJing started as a result of me cutting school, hanging out with some guys that did DJ, and touching that turntable of theirs. I just knew right then and there, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a DJ.
Wow. I mean, you said a mouthful there, brother. Talk about what was your because every DJ starts doing one particular thing first. And what was that for you? Were you trying to mix or were you trying to cut? Like which of the ones you favored a little more than the other?
For me, I started really, I think for me, the scratching and backspinning. Because at that time, hip hop was the DJs repeating the break or the beat on the turntable. So
right.
To keep the beat going for people to be able to rap, we were like the first human samplers.
Right.
They made samplers because of DJs and what we were doing.
Right.
So I would have to repeat that beat on both turntables to keep the flow going for me to either rap over it or the educated rapper to rap over it. Right.
Right.
I would say for me, it started off a little bit of everything, to be honest with you.
Okay.
A little bit of everything. I was trying to develop how to rap and DJ at the same time. That was one thing I was doing early in the game.
Oh man.
And then scratching, bringing in this one, bringing in that one, and really getting involved with that. Mixing, of course, I did that as well, but I think I focused a lot more on scratching and backspinning and needle dropping techniques. I was really heavy into trying to do stuff like that. The blending, that you just needed to have timing and have a good ear for that. The other stuff was more technique and being able to adapt and create. You know what I'm saying? So I was kind of well-rounded, but I really took a liking to the scratching and the backspinning.
Right. And when I say a lot of people started out cutting, because for a lot of people, they didn't have those accesses to 2 turntables. Right. So they had to create, they had to get in, there was an entry. If you're going to use that turntable for something, you had to use it for something. So if you had one turntable, you're going to cut the hell out of a record and just sit there and cut all damn day, try to get that damn cut the way you want it. What was your what was one of your what's your cutting hand? Are you
I'm evenly yoked. That's one
talk
trait
about
I've
it, man?
always
Talk
known. I'm
yes,
evenly yoked on the up and down faders and the cross faders, both hands. That was one thing that separated me from a lot of DJs, and I didn't realize that that was such a big thing. But a lot of my peers would pull me to the side and be tripping off of that, and I didn't understand why. I was like, "Well, you should be able to do it with both hands," but I didn't realize most DJs really just had one hand that they focused on a lot.
right,
I just did both. Everything I did on the left, I wanted to do on the right, and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? And back then, when I first started, we didn't have crossfaders. We just had up and downs. So
right,
I started off just using the up and down faders, and then later started mixing with the crossfaders. And actually, there was a time when I was messing with the mixers that just had knobs.
right,
Just the
right.
knob, that was more for blending and simple rubs, but the knob game, I came up on that early in the game too. Yeah, no doubt.
Man, and I mean, we gloss over it at times, but that's so important to the tutelage of becoming a DJ, having to work on so many different types of equipment because there's workarounds that are developed in using those equipment. And
Facts.
so the easier it becomes as far as equipment is concerned, the more you can do because you were working with less. Similar to what the SB12 was. A lot of people swear by the SB12 because it was less sampling time. And once they get to an MPC, they're actually even stronger.
Right.
But so you're learning an ambidextrous development when it comes to DJing. Now, like you said, you were auditioning Kango Kid and Dr. Ice. Talk about how that to what we know as like the your coming out record, hanging out, and a lot of people don't realize that like hanging out was the side A.
Yes.
And everyone gravitated like a DJ. Like DJs love side Bs. Like give me the side B. Don't
Right.
give me just one side, or the main on and the instrumental acapella on. No, give me one side of the record and give me the other side. And most people gravitate to that B side. Talk about what went into hanging out and then the world famous Roxanne.
Okay, so hanging out was we're at the tail end. This is 1984, so we're kind of like at the tail end of harmonizing. A lot of the groups before us made a lot of records, and there was a lot of harmonizing going on. And what I mean by that is there would be groups that would have multiple MCs. They'd be in and out of each other's, in and out of each other's flows. They may be singing a melody on top of it and harmonizing on top of their raps or harmonizing on top of the beat. That was real popular back then, and we was engulfed in that as well. Hanging Out was one of those type of records that still had the harmonizing flow in it. And Roxanne, ironically, was really a throw together record. The record company just suggested that we should make a B-side.
And what record company is this? For those that don't know,
Select Records.
Select Records, which was one of the pioneering underground,
Facts.
damn near major record labels for hip hop at the time. Continue, my brother.
Very premier, yes indeed. And so Hanging Out is done, and then Roxanne was the B-side. We really didn't know what we was going to do for a B-side, and B Fine from Full Force, he suggested let's make it about a girl. And I think Kango might have said, well, what are we going to call her? And he's like, I don't know, call it Roxanne. So this was a name that this was thrown up in the air. Like the record could have been called any female name. They just happened to pick the name Roxanne. And they wrote to it and stuff like that. And a fact that a lot of people don't realize is Educated Rapper's verse was something that we used to do a year or two prior at the block parties. We was we used to battle groups, and we come from that era of hip hop too. So
Right.
as we're developing and doing block parties, because that was a big thing when we was coming up. Um, uh, uh, Educated Rapper's part of Roxanne is off of Big Beat, and that was a big break beat at the time. So his routine, his verse on Roxanne is actually part of a routine that we used to do to Big Beat. His verse is one of the routines that we used to use on the Big Beat record.
Wow.
So so that's like, so that just goes to show you that was, he didn't even, he may have switched a little bit up for it, but that was a rap that he been had wrote. And Kang wrote his part. Kang actually he actually programmed his beat. We used Big Beat for Educated Rapper, and Full Force Beat Fine programs Doc Beat for Doc's verse, which was unique at the time because Roxanne had 3 different beats to that song. Each rap was rapped to a separate beat than the other one did. And with me cutting on top of that, I did 3 different scratches to each one of their verses. You know what I'm saying? So, we didn't realize it at the time because we was focusing on hanging out. But Roxanne took off. And there's a lot of reasons why Roxanne took off. I think the DJing of it, the scratching and the DJing.
Man.
I think the fact that we used the break beat and that was like kind of like the beginning of that boom bap.
Right. Talk about that was that wave that was going on. Yes.
Big hit hard right there. And then, like you said earlier, they dressed in character. So they had 3 different personas. Kango was the soldier of love. Educated Rapper was the educated rapper, the brainiac. Dr. Ice was the debonair Dr. Ice. And myself, Mixmaster Ice, I was the ninja. I wore the ninja suit. So, we came with images off rip. We came to the game that we stood on and represented to the fullest. That's another thing that made us very unique and separated us from some of the other groups. We really focused on our images. And
that album cover was insane. I mean, that record, that single cover was insane. Like it represented like universal hip hop. Like I'm pretty sure there was people all over the country who looked at that and was like, "Oh, I'm playing that." Like I don't even know what's on it yet, but I'm playing that. Like it just fit like with everybody's like vibration. Like that's what you wanted to do. That's what you wanted to be. Like like you said, you were what made you choose Ninja?
What's funny? I got to give Kango the props on that. It was something that he kind of suggested. And at first I was kind of leery about it, to be honest, because they wanted me to wear the full mask. So I couldn't even be seen. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I don't want to be seen. I think I want to be seen just like the rest of y'all.
Right.
But I went on and thought about it and went on and worked with it. And it was the best move that I could have ever made. One of the best suggestions I've ever heard. And I went on and followed it, and it actually worked because it created this like
mystique.
Yeah, like you wanted to know who was that guy under that mask cutting up. Who's that guy back there cutting on them turntables with the full mask on? I had a whole full ninja suit on. And when this is back in '84, I had a ninja sword. I had the whole sword blade I used to carry, ninja stars. I just went all in with it, right? Coming through the airports, some of them airports stopped me from doing that. I have a sword, they take the sword. I couldn't take that on the plane. I had these ninja stars, they take my ninja stars. I couldn't bring them on the plane. So I had to slow that down a little bit, but definitely the ninja suits and the ninja mask and all that. And then we did that for about a year or two. And then we worked into our stage show, a part of the show where I would take the mask off and reveal what I look like. And those were our touring days. But that was crazy when we would do that. Like I would cut up on the turntables and then they'd be like, "Y'all want to see what Mixed Master Ice look like?" And
what made
the mask in the crowd? They go crazy over that mask, man.
What made Roxanne, like you said, so incredible was that not only did it showcase, these particular styles individually, because like you said, combing history, it was harmony that was in. Yeah. So it wasn't nothing for certain guys within the group to all sound alike. And you guys said, nah, we're not doing that. And then on top of it, to your point, one of the few records where they're scratching through the entire record, like nonstop. Like if nobody knew what you could do prior to that record, they knew what you could do because you were all over that record. Talk about educated rapper, R.I.P. He and I did not know he was from London. But some say it's rap, some say it's legendary. Like that, if that came from an old routine, I mean, that style sounded so brand new. Like he was on some next level.
Yeah.
I mean, for the time, it was y'all were akin to on that record, that beginning. It was like what it was for Protect Your Neck when Wu-Tang came out. Like all these different styles you heard within the song. Y'all were able to give that in a world in which it was dominated by similarity within the group. Harmony. Y'all stood out like a damn sore thumb, man. It was just amazing. Talk about those cuts. And how were they? Was it organic, or were they planned? So, like, did you have a plan going in, or was you just feeling it?
I had never ever been in the studio doing anything like that. And a short story to that is, I almost missed out and didn't do the scratches. Prior to the finishing of Roxanne. I had got myself in a little trouble with the law and ended up getting probation. So right around this time, I had kind of chilled out from hanging out on the block. I had to separate myself from the people I was hanging with, finish school, the whole 9 yards. And I was able to get probation lesson. And at the time, while I'm going through this, things are moving very fast with the group. And I had not realized how fast things had moved in a 2 or 3 month period. And the actual record Roxanne was actually done. The only thing left to do was scratches. And I just happened to pop up at Kango's house the day before the completion of the record.
Wow.
Like literally. And to be honest, at that time, I hadn't even been DJing for a while because I was even going to leave DJing alone because my mom was really heavy on me wanting to go to college and all that kind of stuff. And with the DJing thing, you had to have money to buy records. You had to buy equipment. So at the time, I was even going to quit DJing. I hadn't practiced in a while, a couple of months. I just happened to go over to Kango's house to check on him, see what he's doing. He's like, hey, man, we still grinding. We ain't seen you in a while. We didn't know what was going on. We about to go, finish this record tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. Make a long story short, and this is the grace of God, how God works. I happened to pop up at his house the day before the scratches were going to be complete. The day before.
Wow.
And, Kango had been hanging out with Howie T at the time. And they hadn't seen me for a while. Kango was going to actually have Howie come and lay some scratches down. I just happened to pop up the day before, and he was like, hey, we didn't know what was going on, but hey, I'm going to the studio in the morning. I'll come pick you up. Hey, if you lay down some dope stuff, then we rolling. And he let me know. He said, hey, if the stuff don't come out right, man, we're going to go a different route on the record. I'm like, all right, cool, no problem. So anyway, the next day he comes pick me up 9 a.m, take me to the studio. That's the first time that I had met Full Force. He fine from Full Force.
Okay, and what studio is this for those that don't know?
What was the name of that studio? Oh my God, I'm not even 100% sure. You know what? I'm not 100% sure, man. What studio that was back in '84 at that time? That's my first time at a studio like that. I've never been in a studio like that. Wow. I can't remember. I have to research that for you. Okay.
But, and anybody on the chat, if they know what studio Roxanne was recorded in, please let us know. All right, continue, my brother.
and it may have been a studio. It may have been Bay Sound Studios. We used them a lot. I think they were in Queens or Long Island. So that might have been where we recorded it at, but I'm not 100% sure. It may be on the back of one of our records, and I can research that.
Okay.
In fact, I'm sure it's on the back of the single where we recorded it. I'm pretty sure it's on the 12-inch or even the album. But so anyway, forgot where I was at. Anyway, so I go to the studio and I lay the scratches down. A lot of the scratches are organic, and then some of them are suggestions. Kang has some suggestions of what he wanted me to do because he had been hanging out with Howie, so he had visualized a certain aspect of what he wanted to hear. Then B Fine kind of was like, he was more or less like, show me what you got. So because it was 3 separate beats, I would do 3 separate things. And I didn't know how to count bars and measurements at the time. So I would do something, and B was like, hey, I like that right there. Can you do that 2 times in a row? So I would do it 2 times in a row. And he was like, I like that right there. Then I let him hear something else I had. What he did that was so unique at the time, he would hit play and just let me go. So after he already heard the rhythm that I was going to do, when it was Kango's part, he would hit play. And if you notice, I'm doing the same rhythm basically the whole rap. That's done in 2 takes. He took 2 takes off of everybody's section and kept the best one of each 2. So when it came to Kango's part, I did 2 takes. I did a set. He started over. I did another set. He kept the one that was best. On Educated Rapper's part, that was a scratch that I used to do anyway to Big Beat. So that just was something we used to do in the routine, and that was something I came up with just messing around.
Let's stop there. Let's stop there because that cut that you're describing was literally for a lot of us the first time we heard anyone cut that way. Before it was, the carryover of the beat. You were actually, chopping, and everybody wanted to know that cut. Like, I watched DJs for hours. Like, yo, do that ice cut, man. And go ahead.
Let me just tap on that cut right there. That is something we used to do because we're using Big Beat. So
right.
That particular scratch that I'm doing is how I used to drop the Big Beat in our routine. So,
right.
Because it's a high pitched sound, it's just sounding zig 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 ah. But on Big Beat, I'm doing that off of the bass drum, so it's going zugu 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 boom 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 pap zugu 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 boom pap boom boom. So that's all I'm doing with the R sound on the Roxanne record. It's the same pattern that I used to drop the Big Beat when we would do it from turntable to turntable. You
right.
What I'm saying?
Right.
So, but it's a very unorthodox scratch because both hands are doing 2 separate different things. They're not going in the same motion. So a lot of DJs struggle with that because without seeing it done, it's hard to figure out how to come up with that sound.
Right. And to your point, like it's to quote Rakim, simple ain't it, but quite clever. Like it looks like anyone could do that. Now let's put this in context, people. There was no envelope on the faders.
Right.
There was no, your way of moving those faders depended on making that envelope. So if you knew what you were doing, you could do it.
Right.
Because really with these envelopes now that they put on the faders, it makes it easy to be able to create that chop or that transforming effect. Yeah. But you guys were doing it without that. Talk about that and how long did it kind of, how long did it take for you to get down that mixer, if you will? And what was your weapon of choice as far as mixers? What mixers were you using?
Back then you had a lot of Gemini mixers that was kind of real prevalent back in that time frame. You had I didn't have 1200 Technique 1200s like these. I think I was on that time we were using B1s, belt-driven B1s, belt-driven B2s.
No, man. Stop right there, bro.
Yes,
No,
yes.
no, no, no.
Yes,
What?
yes, indeed.
You were doing that on belts?
Yep. And also I can do that on the D1s and the D2s, the direct drives, which the directs were even harder to do because you really had to have a light touch because
Right.
of that wheel. That wheel would drag on you if you're too heavy-handed.
Right, man. And he's revealing a lot of secrets because for a lot of DJs, yeah, you think you can just go out and buy some turntables, but that's not the truth. The truth is you damn near got to marry that turntable to get to know that because every turntable, at least the techniques were built by hand. So there was a certain attitude that those techniques moved on, and you had to learn that attitude to be effective.
That's fact.
How long did you stay with your technique to figure its quirks out?
Okay, so I tell you what, man, I started DJing in 1980. We did the Roxanne in 84. My passion for DJing was so strong, I would want to cut school. I would be home practicing all the time. And, one thing about having a passion, you never know when the lights are going to be on you to manifest and to show out. And when that time was given to me, because of my background in practicing so much, what I was doing in the studio was just second nature. I just was doing stuff I already knew how to do. You know what I'm saying? And,
right.
At the time, you don't realize that you're changing the game. I didn't realize that there's people that were before me that I studied. I studied them hard. I could think of a bunch of DJs that meant the world to me at that time that I studied and developed styles around and then added my own craft to it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I was a shorty in the game. So I would hear these mixtapes. I was too young to go to the functions that these guys were at. And we would hear mixtapes. And I would try to literally figure out what they were doing just by hearing it. And because of that, not seeing how it's done is actually became a blessing to me, because sometimes I would come up with something totally different trying to figure out what they were doing. Now, had I seen what they was doing, then I would have mimicked exactly what they were doing.
Right.
I can only hear it. I'm trying to figure it out. And then in the process of that, I might figure something else out. And then one of my boys might be like, hey, that was dope. And I'd be like, for real? And I'm like, no, that's a mistake. I'm trying to do something else. No, that's it. That's dope. And then you stick with it, and then you develop your mistake. Next thing you know, you done came up with something that nobody was doing, just messing around.
Right. And man, another bomb drop for all my DJs out there, because it is in the mistakes. The mistakes aren't necessarily the Achilles heel. Sometimes it is, copy paste that, you're where these people are, but you're not going to stand out, and it was all the mistakes, people that, damn, how did you come up with that? Like, I'm pretty sure the transform didn't come from somebody intentionally trying to do it. Like, that just came from probably a few mistakes trying to get to this other scratch. Right. And that transform was derived from that. Talk to me about, did you think that record was going to turn into what it did? And the legend behind that?
You know what? We really didn't. Hanging Out was supposed to be the hit. The focus was on Hanging Out. Roxanne just happened to take off. And one of the first DJs to do it, I don't know if he was the first, but one of the first that we always gave props to was Red Alert. And Red Alert, Chuck Chill Out, Marley Marl, these guys had platforms that were on the radio in New York City at the time. Big platforms on their Rap Attack and their I don't even know what Red Alerts was called, but Red Alert had a platform, Chuck Chill Out had a platform, and Marley Marl had a platform on the radio.
Right.
Red Alert.
Shout out to Mr. Magic, Rap Attack, and shout out to, that whole 98.7 Kiss FM movement.
Yes,
man.
indeed.
Continue.
Yes. So Red Alert is one of the first ones that we know of to flip the record and was like, hey, I like this B-side, and gave the B-side a run.
And he was known.
Yeah.
He was known for that.
Breaking records.
Like, he was known for habitually running to the B-side. Like, he'll listen to that first side for a minute, like, I'm not feeling that. Flip it, and if that and these records became big from the B-sides.
Red Alert is one of our pioneers. He's part of the early foundation, and so he's got that ear. Red Alert know how to break records. He know what's going to hit in them streets. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And he comes from that soil, and so he flipped it, played it on the radio a few times. Records started taking off. Records started blowing up. You know what I'm saying? New York City's on fire. The whole tri-state is on fire from this Roxanne. And we starting to make our rounds around the city. We hitting clubs, we doing live performances, and we're part of that wave that came from Brooklyn. You had Houdini that really put Brooklyn on the map in a big way. The Fat Boys were another group that put Brooklyn on in a big way. And then you had us. Now, there was other groups also, but I'm talking about that really impacted the culture in a major.
That run from Brooklyn was so important for hip hop.
Yes.
Because you just mentioned 3-4 groups that did not sound like any one of each other. Like, you guys had your own distinctive lane, and all could be played within an hour span, and you'd feel like that was the sound of New York. It wasn't even.
You had to be different back then. To get a deal and to see back then, it was all about the talent. It was all about the skills. It was all about originality. That was very key back then. Nowadays, a lot of people are using the same producers. A lot of people are using the same flows. And that's where it's at now. But back then it was totally different. You had to everybody sounded different. Nobody sounded like Run DMC.
No.
Nobody sounded like Houdini. Nobody sounded like the Fat Boys. Nobody sounded like U.T.F.O. Nobody sounded like LL. Nobody sounded like Rakim. I can go on and on and on and on and on. Even to our pioneers before us. Nobody sounded like Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5. Nobody sounded like the Coke. Right. Nobody sounded like Africa Bambaataa and the Soulsonic Force. Nobody sounded like the Crash Crew, the Fearless Four. I can go on and on and on. We come from that soil of watching them do it.
Right.
And it all sounded different.
And to your point, I want to expand on just that point you said about using producers. The groups you mentioned, they weren't even one was using Thomas Dolby. Blinding Me with Science, Thomas Dolby. The other was using, Curtis Blow. And the other one was using Full Force. Shout out to Full Force.
Shout out to Full Force.
They've been one of the most underground hit-making teams that you would never suspect because their music. But when they do other people's music, it doesn't even sound like it's them. And they were known for that. Shout out to Howie T too. All of that movement that was going on. And like you said, to talk about Brooklyn, to talk about the diversity in Brooklyn. And that was so important.
We all come from the East Flatbush section of Brooklyn. And what you said is actually correct. I echo everything you just said. Big up to Full Force. They were already a group. Trying to weigh in and was tapping into producing and took a liking to us and gave us the beat. Now they are major in our neighborhood and major in Brooklyn. Howie T also is major, very instrumental, very inspirational. Howie T is very inspirational to me as well because we were both DJs from the same neighborhood, and sometimes by default, you become rival DJs just because, we come from that battle era. But we're really from the same part of Brooklyn. And Howie T is bad on them turntables and nasty on them turntables too. So he's very instrumental and an inspiration to me as well.
Right.
We all come from that. We all come from that soil. You know what I'm saying? Howie T is, when I think of producers, especially producer, he's laid some of the most impactful hip hop production. When I think of Chubb Rock and Special Ed,
yeah.
I mean, just he helped us. He helped Full Force. Once we got on and we did our own answer to the record. After Shantae answered our record, we said, well, hell, we might as well put our own face to our own.
No, stop. Now stop there, because no, you're not going to do that. This is too epic of a moment. You're not going to do that. Roxanne is huge.
Yes.
Huge. Representing Brooklyn, the sound of New York. It's all over the country. I mean, we had so many versions out here. It was insane. Roxanne's grandma, Roxanne this, Roxanne, just tons of Roxannes. But none of them could even hang with world premiere, world premiere. Let me tell you something about, Shantae just comes in, this young little girl, and just starts killing it. Talk about what you thought when that song dropped for the first time hearing it, and where were you when you heard it?
I'm gonna be honest, we were blown away and very upset when we heard the record, because when we made the record, we were not talking about anybody specifically. And when she answered the record, to the persona of people out there, it looked like she was the Roxanne we were talking about, which she wasn't. But she answered the record, and the whole record, Roxanne, was about the three rappers, Kango and
right.
guys. They're battling each other about a girl they couldn't get, and her name was Roxanne. That's what the record's about in a nutshell. Here come, we bubbling, the record's blowing up. A few months down the line, here come an answer from this girl named Shantae from Queens. Young girl. She's like our age group. She's like 14, 15. We like 19 at this time. So she's not, you couldn't even be our Roxanne if we wanted you to. You were too young. However, she answered the record and in her own way put her face as the Roxanne we was talking about. We were very upset. We were upset. Very upset, to be honest. Because we didn't plan that. So it's our record. We upset that she answered our record and put a face to it.
And Marley Marl is a goddamn genius, boy.
Yes.
Because, like I said, he already had the platform. Just how radio is so instrumental in a lot of things, because it's terrestrial TV time, if you will, to be able to, start a record with that infamous world premiere, world premiere. Well, my name is Roxanne. Don't you know? I just a co-rock a party and do this show. Let me tell you, and she's going in and she disses all of them.
Yeah,
and it was so like the beat sounded like, it was the demoist of demos. But it was so dirty and grimy.
Yeah.
And then she basically took Queens on her back. Like, it wasn't just her answering you. She was like the representative of Queens.
No, the record took off, and then it started the phenomenon of they would play our record, then play her record. They would play our record, then play her record. And then Sparky D ended up jumping in on that, on our record. And took light on our defense and battled at Shantae. But what we did was
say it.
So what we did was, instead of just letting bygones be bygones, we said, well, wait a minute now. If Roxanne's gonna have a face, we're gonna determine who our Roxanne is. And that's when we created the real Roxanne.
Man.
How the real Roxanne came into play. So now you got U.T.F.O. Roxanne. You got Shantae calling herself Roxanne Shantae. You got Sparky D that gets into the mix. Then we come out with the real Roxanne to be the Roxanne that we're claiming to be who we're talking about. So now, and this is going on. It's catching fire all over the place. And there's answers and responses left and right coming across the country and even overseas. Probably well over 20 response records altogether to our original Roxanne record.
And that has never been done again. Like, no, you know, there was so many careers that started out of that record. Like, you guys basically were the Amazon of hip hop. Okay, Roxanne was the warehouse.
Yeah.
Just bring your stuff in here. We'll sell it. So, and Real Roxanne, shout out to the Real Roxanne.
Yes.
If you didn't have a crush on that woman, something was wrong with you. Growing up in those days, she was
one of the first Latino, probably the first. I'm not sure if she was the first, but definitely one of the first female Latinos to rap.
Talk about it.
Yes.
Shout out to all my Boricuas that know about that. People had that picture up, you know. I mean, and Full Force is just known for pulling that out of their hat. I mean, big up to Lisa, Code Jam. I mean, that was just, you know, Lisa was just incredible. But yes, Real Roxanne and Howie T, man, that bang zoom.
Yes.
Woo! That bang zoom.
That hit different. That hit different back then. Yes, it did.
Dude, it still hit different, man. She just had that radio voice.
Mm-hmm.
She just had that voice about her that was just.
Hey, hold on. Let me get another chair here. I got a chair problem.
Okay, yeah, you good, man. You listening to the Sound of Orlando show with your boy Rome, live and direct, man. So honored to have this brother on tonight. The legendary Mixmaster Ice. Shout out to everybody on the check-in. DJ Quest, a.k.a. Big Haiti. What's good, homie? Shout out to my man, Ricky. Shout out to Jesse Jazz, the legend, the problem. Let's go. Yes, we're having some furniture issues. He's going to check that out real quick. And I want to do a quick PSA while I got you guys listening. If you have a beat and you want it played, this ain't the thread to be saying you want to have a beat played. Take the email address. It's the name of the show, thesoulshow@gmail.com if you want to play a beat. Do not get crazy if I'm not playing your beat, because I'm not playing your beat while we're doing a show. Go to the email, thesoulshow.com. Okay? Now, we're back with my brother, Mixmaster Ice, and we're talking about the Real Roxanne and so many answers from that record. Now, that first record was just insane. Then you dropped the second album, which was like a level up, if you will. Now, mind you, I'm skipping, Leader of the Pack, which was just completely insane. That record is just completely insane. Write it. I mean, there was so much stuff that you guys were doing, and it was like, how can you top this? And shout out to my man Jesse Jazz. He has a question. He said, if you can, what skit was on the album and the last track where you played the record backwards?
That was off the Skeezer Pleaser album.
Skeezer Pleaser.
That was the second album.
Man. Skeezer Pleaser. You had a Split Personality on there, which was my joint. I love Split Personality. You were all over that. You were all over them records too. Talk about the mindset that went into that second release.
Okay. The first album did real well. Just to touch back base on that one, that album showcased a lot of different styles that we brought to the table.
Right.
You had Roxanne that had already previously been out, and when we made Roxanne, we hadn't had an album deal yet. Roxanne is the reason we was given an album deal. And the first leading single from the album itself was Leader of the Pack.
Right. Which you're a complete maniac on that record, man. Complete maniac.
That was a record that featured me and you know, put me in a great position, you know, and you know, it was a DJ record, but at the same time, a great piece of hip hop for the culture.
Right.
Also on that album, we had Bite It, Doc and Kango. In addition to them being great dancers, you know, we engulfed all parts of hip hop, so they knew how to beatbox. We would do it all. So
Bite
It had a beatbox thing to it. That was a single that did well. We also had on that album one of hip hop's first ballads, a song called Fairy Tale Lover, showcasing our singing ability. And this record took off on a whole nother level and opened up a whole bunch of other doors, you know.
Right.
And that's just off the first album. So that first album had at least 4 or 5 big records at that time that were being played on the radio. When you're talking 84, 85, and even going into 86, we had a lot of the airwaves covered from a lot of records of ours.
Covered, man. And to this day, you're not a DJ if you don't have some sort of scratch cut album, and you're not gonna hear Bite It, and you're not gonna hear cuts from Roxanne, and you're not gonna hear cuts from Leader of the Pack. Like that's what you guys have done will live in infamy on that first album, because there was so much going on, you know, that just as far as a DJ, it's gonna live. You know, DJs can't listen to that. Even the young kids, you know. I remember showing my son Roxanne, and he was just bopping his hands like, damn, this is dope.
Wow.
And, you know, this is, you know, my son's fifth, you know, he just turned 16. But yeah, he never heard that record. And he was just like, man, this is dope. And like I said, I mean, for a lot of people, that was their indoctrination, if you will, into hip hop from my class of you know, I was 10 years old when I heard that, and I heard the message was the first, you know, and Christmas rap were the first records, hip hop records that struck me, and I knew I was going to be in hip hop. But U.T.F.O just was like, between Freaks Come Out at Night, 5 Minutes of Funk, 2 records that I bought. My mom gave me $10. I went out and bought 5 Minutes of Funk, Roxanne, and I was set. Wow. That record player just played for hours.
Wow.
My mom be yelling at me like, turn that off. You've been playing it for like 3 hours. I was like, man.
You're right.
I'm trying to learn everything in there, man. I'm trying to catch
you in study mode. You in study mode.
I'm studying, bro. But that spoke to me in a real way that, like, you know, that was my, like I said, my indoctrination into it to know, like, okay, I see myself, because you guys were like that representation. You guys obviously were older. You were like, what? When Roxanne came out, what were y'all, like 16?
I was 19.
19. Look at that. Yeah.
I was 19. I'm the
84.
I'm the second oldest in the group, but I was 19 in 84 when that came out.
Right. So bam. Yeah. I mean, it was just so hard of a moment for a lot of people. And yeah, I mean, we were just straight up U.T.F.O fans after that. And as far as DJing, like between you, Cut Creator, and Jam Master Jay, I mean, it was just like, it's everything you wanted to be as far as like that wave of DJing, that young crew that was coming out.
Yes.
You know, that Flash was Flash, you know, and the DJs prior to that, but you guys were part of that new generation. Like, okay, we cutting all over this now.
Right.
You ain't gonna hear a record without us cutting on it. How about that?
I'm gonna cut every chance I can get.
Right. It was amazing. But talk about, like I said, that second effort.
Okay, so then you had Split Personality, and at the time, prior to Split Personality coming out, we toured with New Edition, in '85. You know, the first album came out in '85. We toured with New Edition for about 6 months on the road with New Edition. And in the midst of being on the road with New Edition, we got a call to be a part of Crush Groove. And I remember coming home off the road. We went into the studio and we made a record called Pick Up the Pace. Pick Up the Pace was a record that was made before we did the Skeezer Pleaser album.
Right.
That record was actually done for Crush Groove. We were in the movie and everything. We got edited out of the movie, you know, during the editing process, but we were in the same scene with New Edition for that talent show scene. We was one of the groups in that talent show scene with New Edition.
That's crazy. Yeah. Like, and nobody knew that.
We went home, made a record, and did the record and performed that record at the movies, at the movie screening. And
wow.
If you listen to the movie, there's a part in the movie where there's a taxi scene. And in that taxi scene, they're playing Pick Up the Pace in the background. Well, we were supposed to be in that movie. And, you know, sometimes there's politics or for whatever reason, we was edited out of it. But we were supposed to be in that movie as well with everybody else, you know. Right. Unfortunately, we were edited out. But on the if you look at the credits, you still see us in the credits and stuff. But there's a scene in the movie where there's a taxi scene. And in that background of that taxi scene, Pick Up the Pace is being played. So anyway, back to Pick Up the Pace. That hits the airwaves. That had a little Doc knew how to do different styles of images. Doc was really good at that. And studying different languages and stuff. And he did a little reggae thing on there. And which was pretty dope. I think Kango might have been doing the beatbox maybe, and Doc was doing the rap. But Doc's doing this little reggae kind of flavor on top of it. And then I'm showcasing once again some nice scratches on there. On that particular record, Pick Up the Pace, I let the whole, this stuff is really fresh. I let that go. And a lot of DJs didn't know where those sounds came from.
Hell no!
They were using the U.T.F.O. Skeezer Pleaser album because on the end of Skeezer Pleaser, on the end of Pick Up the Pace, I let it go.
Right.
Really fresh. So a lot of DJs was cutting up the U.T.F.O. record just to get that fresh sound.
You damn right. And I'm guilty of it. And there's a whole bunch of other DJs that were guilty of it. Because yes, that's exactly, I mean, they weren't making scratch records. So, and if you didn't know, if you weren't up on, you know, Fab Five Freddy,
right,
you know, you're not going to know that that's where that scratch lives.
Exactly. That's right.
And, you know, it's the same damn sound you hear in the show, Dougie Fresh. It's the same. I mean, like all of these sounds that we were hearing, I mean, we were sampling off the samples.
Yeah.
We were sampling off the cuts.
Big up to DST. DST is the one that, you know, showcased that fresh first with Herbie Hancock. You know,
yes, Rocket.
He really put that on in a major way, man, in a major way. And you know, I'm just another extension to the culture. I'm just another extension to the branch. You know what I'm saying? But he's the one that really put that on the map. You know, in the early stages, because he killed it with Fresh. He just absolutely murdered that Fresh, and that was one of the first times we seen DJing on TV like that on a major scale. You know, he really put that on the map.
Man, and talk about that damn video, bro. That was probably one of the dopest videos of at the time for the technology was doing all those mannequins moving, and that beat was just insane. It was jazz, funk, R&B, hip hop, like it was everything at once.
No doubt.
And the rhythms that he was making were light cuts. That you know, like all of that. I mean, you know, what a great time for hip hop and to be a part of it at the position and timing that you guys were at, because everything was so brand new. I hear it all the time. You know, hip hop was literally like working itself out in real time the whole time in those days.
Mm-hmm. Facts. Like
it didn't know what it was trying to be. Like we knew we wanted to go. We just didn't know where we were going. We're all like, get in the car. I don't care. Get in the car. You know, and you know, we all just wanted to be in the car. We didn't know where we were going. Talk about, you know, where you seeing the shift, where UTFO finally, I wouldn't say come to an end, but that particular moment in time where you seen the shift and where you had to kind of maybe pass the baton, if you will, and that with that iteration of hip hop or that expression in hip hop.
All right. Well, we had one hell of a run.
Right.
We're actually the second hip hop group to make 5 albums. We probably would have been the first, but we had a long delay on getting our 5th release out. Run DMC was the first to put out 5 albums. We're the second group to put out 5 albums.
Amazing.
You know, we had one hell of a run, and you know, just like, you know, brothers, and you know, sometimes you run into creative differences. Sometimes, you know, things start moving in different directions. Dr. Ice wanted to go solo on our 4th album, and by the time the 4th album was completed, you know, he was also working on his solo project.
Right.
And in the midst, and at that time, we was also leaving Select and going to Jive Records. So we're going to Jive for our 5th album. Doc's going to Jive for his first solo project.
Right.
So, you know, we're going through a big transition at this time.
Right.
Creatively, we started, you know, feeling a little bit different about what we wanted to do creatively. And I think that took a little toll as well. You know, adding on Doc leaving and creative differences. And, you know, at the time, it just came to a point where we just went our separate ways and we all just started doing our own thing. You know,
right.
Direction, Educated Rapper went one direction. I went one direction. For me, one of the things that kept me so relevant was I never stopped DJing. And even back in as early as 85, 86, anytime there was some downtime or a slight break in the action from touring, there was always these promoters that would bring me to their cities to DJ at concerts, DJ at skating rinks, DJ big mansion parties. Just, you know, all these promoters would always bring me in to DJ in these different cities. So by 80, I want to say by 88, I had about 14 different cities that I frequented quite often, just DJing. Different promoters would bring me in anytime I had any downtime. So that kept me going. And, you know, I never missed a beat back then. Even when things started transitioning from U.T.F.O, we started going our separate ways. One thing I was able to do was pick up heavy on the DJ campaign and keep that rolling, because I had already built up so many friendships and that reputation back from 85, 86, 87, already tapping into different markets. Different promoters would bring me in to, you know, rock at a lot of events that they were having. You know, I was doing that very, very early in the game, man. And that was a blessing for me, because when things went to the left for U.T.F.O, I was able to still eat off of moving around DJing, you know?
Tell me about, did you ever, who was you were a battle DJ?
Yes.
What's one of the craziest battles that you had as a DJ?
I'll tell you this one. The craziest battle I ever had as a DJ is the battle for my name. My name at the time was DJ Ice. My first DJ name when I first started was DJ Divine. You know, I used to be I was one of the 5%ers, so that was my DJ name at the time. Divine was my name, so I took DJ Divine as my DJ.
Yes.
And then about another year after that, I changed my name to DJ Ice.
Right.
And that was my name. So about, I would say around 81, maybe late 80. No, not about 81. I'm going by DJ Ice.
Right.
And you know, ICE is the last 3 letters of my first name. My first name is Maurice. So Ice is the last 3 letters of my first name.
Yes.
So 81, I'm going by DJ Ice. And when Kango and Doc got into, when we formed the group with Kango and Doc, and now we're calling ourselves Untouchable Force Organization. This is probably around 82, 83-ish, maybe early 83. No, maybe late 82-ish. Anyway, make a long story short, there was a guy in the neighborhood who was going by the name Mixmaster John or either Mixmaster Wood. I can't remember which one it was. Either his real name was John or his real name was Wood. But he had that Mixmaster in the front of his DJ name. And when I heard that, that just blew me away. I was like, oh my God, I gotta have that. Mixmaster Ice. But at the time it was, my name is always DJ Ice.
Right.
I added the Mixmaster Ice to it. So
right.
Technically, my real DJ name is Mixmaster DJ Ice. But because of records, that was just too long. So I just dropped the DJ because, of course I'm a DJ, so I don't need the DJ part. Just give me the Mixmaster Ice, and it's self-explanatory. But technically, my name is Mixmaster DJ Ice. If you listen to Leader of the Pack, they say that in Leader of the Pack. Just like that. Mixmaster DJ Ice.
DJ Ice.
Be precise. The boy is nice.
Nice. Right.
So then I start going with Mixmaster Ice. But back to your question, there was a guy that had the name Mixmaster in the neighborhood. And when I heard it, I was like, I gotta have that. Now, where we come from, you just can't bite somebody's name.
Right.
You have to battle for it.
Right.
So I battled this guy. Can't go with friends with him. Can't go set it all up. And me and the guy talked. And so I challenged him to a battle for the name. So he's got to take me up on it. So the battle gets set up. I'm battling him for his name. So I got to go to his house and battle him on his set. So he gets set up. We show up. I go over there. I go on first because I got to go on first. And I went on maybe a minute, maybe a minute and a half, doing a little something, and he didn't even go on. He didn't want no parts of it. He wanted no smoke.
Wow.
No smoke. And
wow.
Big up to him, man. Big up to him. And that's how I ended up with the name Mixmaster. So to answer your question, what was one of the craziest battles? I battled somebody for my name back in 82. And that's how I put the Mixmaster in front of DJ Ice. And now it's called Mixmaster Ice, but that's where the Mixmaster part came from.
Have you seen him lately? Like you guys ever talk?
That was a long time ago, man.
Yeah,
I have not seen him since, man. So
that sounds like a 8 Mile, like Papa Doc, not wanting to say a damn word because it's already been said, and that's amazing. That's kudos to your legend, man. Being able to just, because back then, to your point, you had a battle. You couldn't say you just gonna DJ. You couldn't just say you gonna rhyme without having to show somebody what you got.
Yeah. And
the more original you was, the respect was not I'm gonna battle you, but to your point, the respect was I can't even rock with you, bro, because I can't even. You're on some other stuff, and I always viewed that as, we'll take that. Yes, we'll take that. I'd rather take that than, to your point, make fun of you or belittle you because I was you at some point, right? Now talk about what you got going on presently, and what can people expect from Mixmaster Ice going in this new year, 2021, if you will.
Okay, so currently this year is my 40th DJ anniversary. I started.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
To the black man, alive and well, not in jail, didn't fail. Come on, man. It's real, man. Let's go. Let's go. We out here, man. Let's go.
So this is actually my 40th DJ anniversary this year. And unfortunately, due to COVID-19, I didn't get to do my 40th anniversary tour. Back in March, I had already had 22 dates already booked in March that was going to take place over the spring and summer, and dates were still being added on.
Wow.
All them dates had to be canceled. I had casino gigs. I had festivals, concerts, all kinds of stuff. And all of them had to be canceled. So I started DJing per se the summer of 1980. So this this year was the start of my 40th DJ anniversary, so I didn't get a chance to do a lot of that. Unfortunately, hopefully things are picked back up, and I can pick that back up. But we all took a big hit with COVID.
Yeah, we did.
It is what it is. I'm currently I'm in the Columbus, Ohio market. So shouts out to the Buckeye City. I'm on the radio out here. I do a throwback throwdown mix that I do in on our iHeart station. Our iHeart station in Columbus is 106.7 The Beat. So at noon, I'm on there rocking them throwbacks, bringing back memories. So I do that with my partner Paul Strong, and we hit them throwbacks and keep that old school flavor going. So I'm currently still doing that. I'm always doing speaking engagements and moving around, inspiring and trying to, touch the youth as best I can, and just tell the story of where I come from, and anywhere I could be an inspiration to those. I'm always looking to do that as well. You know what I'm saying? Doing stuff like this, platforms like this. So, interviews and mentoring and going around doing seminars and stuff like that. I'm always moving around doing that. The core DJs, I'm part of them. So, anytime there's something going on where I'm incorporated with that, that's always a blessing as well. And, just a lot of the relationships I've developed over the years. A lot of people reach out to me and we do things. I do cruises. I DJ a lot of different functions, and I'm tapped in with a lot of different networking. So that's a blessing in itself.
Well, shout out to Columbus, Ohio, Midwest. Ohio can get a lot of slack sometimes, given the position it is on the map. Yes. It is Midwest. It's a blue collar state. Yeah. It's an underdog state. Sorry for the Cleveland Browns. They had to get tore up. You knew that was going to happen. But shout out to that Ohio movement, because we got mad respect for that energy, man. I got Crazy Bone coming on next month. Okay. And I know what it is to live in that blue collar kind of state. I lived in Kansas City for 12 years, and there's a certain kind of energy in that Midwest, man. Because a lot of people feel like they're overlooked there. Nobody cares. They might live in a flyover city.
Well, you know what? Just to tap in where you're saying, one of the things about the Midwest that's so unique, it's such a big territory. Who can put it on the map? Like, of course, the South has a sound. So,
right.
Either Florida or Atlanta is their Mecca. When you go to the East Coast, you have the whole tri-state area as their Mecca. You know what I'm saying? So, you go to the Midwest. Who is the Midwest? Because the Midwest goes all the way from Ohio, clear all the way, like you said, Kansas City, Missouri. So, the Midwest does not have a distinct sound.
Well, they do. Shout outs to Bone, Thugs and Harmony.
Do you think Bone is the sound of the Midwest?
Absolutely. I think they're the sound of Cleveland at minimum.
Yes.
Right.
They're the sound of the Midwest. See, that's
I think they represent it as much as you would expect. I think you got the Twisters, you got the Tech Nines. Kanye, say what you want about him. It Nelly. Does come off as an East Coast, but he represents the St. Louis, Chi-Town, Common. Say what you want about Common.
See, that's my point. All of those styles are different. None of them have a distinct sound, and they all claim Midwest.
I hear the Midwest in it, though. Nelly all day. Like, if you go to St. Louis, if you go to a club in St. Louis, that sounds like the Midwest. 666 Mafia, that sounds like the Midwest. That whole Memphis kind of vibration.
But I think each one of those have their own kind of entity within themselves. Now, I'm not saying they haven't been inspired by others before them, but each one of those markets that you're saying, to me, have a different type of sound.
Right. It doesn't represent the Midwest as a collective.
Like when you think of Atlanta, some of them sound alike. you know, that down south vibe. Some of them sound alike. You know, they
Right.
use the same producers. Some of them use the same cadence.
Right.
East Coast kind of have their own little flavor. You know
Right.
an East Coast flavor when you hear it.
Yeah, but I shout out to Tap Money. I had Tap Money on. We was talking about how that Philly worked. The Philly. It's only East Coast because of the brashness that it has. Outside of that, Philly's in its own lane. Like I feel like a lot of times Philly gets this East Coast label, and sometimes it is. But we were talking about Schoolie D. Like Schoolie D was the father of damn near the West Coast raps, gangster rap.
Well,
Philly.
I'm gonna put Philly on the East Coast vibe, and the only reason I say
Right. No, I get that. I get it.
Philly's big on the boom bap. They're
Right.
They're big on that boom bap, so they kind of fit in with it. Like they love sampling, they love the breaks. They come up in the same kind of culture. But you know, and shouts out to Philly because Philly's tremendous with their DJing and tremendous with their MCing. But I gotta put them on. I gotta put them with an East Coast vibe only because you know they love that boom bap. When you hear, I mean, that boom bap makes you want to be East Coast. Just like the West Coast has. The West Coast has a sound. You understand what I'm saying?
But you know what? Something could be said about and shout outs to the hieroglyphics, and the Far Sides, the Oaklands. That outside of the Too Short, Oakland has always had that boom bap with that West Coast flavor, all it the Dell, Funky Homo Sapiens, the King T's, the Licks, the Alcoholics, they've had the boom bap.
I get King T definitely.
And King T, you already know King T.
Definitely. For sure.
And they've always had that boom bap to it, but you could still, I don't necessarily, I don't end it at the beat. Like there's, Ice Cube, and we're I love it. We're talking about the history of hip hop. That America's Most Wanted album, which to me was Public Enemy's third album that they never released and just put Ice Cube on it.
Yeah, the Bomb Squad. That's that
Bomb Squad. Yeah. But Ice Cube went on it. Anyone else could have went on that, and it would have been East Coast.
What it was you had a marriage between that East Coast Bomb Squad sound and Ice Cube talking about where he come from on time.
Right. And that still sounded like Compton. Yeah. Like Public Enemy moved to Compton. The beats didn't change. The beats didn't sound like Compton, but Ice Cube, his voice made it feel like Public Enemy moved to Compton, and it just, you can't. Some people's voices are so distinct, and we were just talking about it with the Kango Kids and the Educated Rappers and the Dr. Ice. This is like, legacy when we're talking about the idea of hip hop. That voice is so important to the music because it separates it creates this kind of like divide in which, you cannot front. Like I've heard Tech Nine on an East Coast beat and Murder It. And he made that part for that minute sound like it was from Kansas City, And then, I've heard, Common get on, a record and it sounds like completely like Chicago. And if you've been to Chicago, it's a certain vibration out there. They're like an East Coast in the Midwest, but they're, you could go from 1 minute listening to, Do or Die, and then listen to Common the next minute, And I think that's beautiful because Florida represents that kind of eclecticness. Whereas you could go to Miami, maybe hear some Trick Daddy, and then before you know it, you may go to Orlando and hear some Smiles and South Star. Like it's, it has its culture, and I think that's a good thing. I think that the sound isn't one sound. It's an accompaniment of sounds. It's a chorus of sounds.
And
Just
see
like
and that's the thing with the Midwest. It's so diverse in those regions.
Right.
This it's not like Atlanta or New York or even Cali. The Midwest is so diverse in their sound. But I'm gonna tell you something. When I think of the Midwest, I'm gonna be honest with you. I got to go back even before rap. The sound of the actual Midwest, when I really think of it, is the funk. The funk comes from the Midwest. Born and raised in the Midwest.
talk about it.
They don't even realize it because a lot of West Coast artists really went heavy with the funk and blew up off the funk. But that funk comes from the Midwest.
Well, you're living in a state with one of the kings. Shout out to Roger Troutman.
Yes.
Legendary with funk. You're talking about Prince. You're talking about the time. That whole Taboo Records movement that was Midwest. When you're talking about that, I think, like I said, we accepted it as R&B because R&B, depending on where it was from, it just had, like Jodeci, yeah, they came out of New York on Uptown Records, but that was, they still couldn't leave that Southern Midwest sound. Like they sounded like where they were from, even though they were coming out from a New York label. We got Gap Band out of Oklahoma City. Shout out to that whole movement, the Gap Band, and what they did for music. But hip hop, it's just a whole nother thing, man. Shout out, rest in peace, MC Breed. Ain't No Future in Your Front. Like that was so huge.
Flint, Michigan.
Flint, Michigan. And it sounded like Flint.
And that's the funk. That's the funk.
Right.
That's the funk. He put that funk on the map on a hip hop level.
But don't forget, we also got the Dillas coming out of Detroit.
About Breed, but Breed's before them though.
Right. And but still we got what? Eminem with his movement, his production style, Royce the 5'9", the Dillas. I know I'm forgetting a lot, but I mean you got Michigan got a sound too, along with Motown. Like it's so I don't know. Motown always had an East Coast sound to it because we grew up watching movies where all of their music was in the movies in New York. It was filmed in New York, and then you hear Diana Ross in it, or you hear Marvin Gaye in it, and it just felt East Coast. But that was so Midwest, like
that
what they were doing.
That Breed record is one of my favorite hip hop records.
All time, dog. All time.
That is one of my favorite hip hop records, just because it got the funk in it. But I remember when that record hit. What was it, like 90, 91? When that record hit, that record hit different, man. It was something majorly special about that MC Breed record. May he rest in peace. Yes. He was a friend of mine. Me and one of my partners, we were one of the first ones to bring him to Columbus to perform.
Oh wow!
We developed. He was a buddy of mine. I loved that record. That he's one of the early rappers to put the Midwest on the map.
Right? No, and not just put the Midwest on the map. Put a city in which, unless you grew up there, nobody's moving there. Nobody says I'm going to wake up and move to Flint. And Flint is still going through issues with fucking people trying to kill them with water. The water source is all jacked up. Like they're still going through, if not worse conditions than they were, when he was out, when the whole, auto factories left and the steel mills, and and he was representing a city in which everybody probably would have told him go represent Detroit or something. Or go further south and represent some other city, and you'll probably get bigger. But he was repping Flint from day one. I mean, and that's kudos to a lot of people. Like New York was always the thing to rep. We still get people to this day that will rather come out of New York, even though they live somewhere else the rest of their life, the entirety of their life. But shout out to the cities that are actually saying, damn that. I rather represent these people got enough voices. Let me deal with a place in which, we don't have no voice. And Ohio is one of those places in which there's not enough voices for everything that's going on in that state. I mean, you got cops acting a damn fool, killing our ass left and right for years. When we ain't even gotta go back that long. We can go back the last 3 years. They've been killing black people as if they were COVID-19. Yeah. And we need more voices that represent the idea of what hip hop is in Ohio, and speak on it and come correct on that shit and bring awareness to it, because we need that. We as a people, we need that. We need that conversation. And like I said, anybody living in Ohio, I know there's more good than bad, but it's bad in Ohio for the black man up there, man. They systematically use us for prisons and highlight reels on who they killed on the evening news. And it's just not a good situation in the country as a whole, but a lot of that is going on in Ohio too, man. How do you feel about hip hop going into 2021? Do you feel we're in a good place?
I'm gonna say yeah. The reason why I'm gonna say yeah is because you still got the youth hungry for it. You know, with technology, kids want these. They want the software. They want the devices. They want the drum machine. They want the computers. They want to be able to still create. And the future is always going to be with the youth. Each generation has new generations of young hip hoppers doing it the way they do it. But right. I'll say it's still in a good space for several reasons. It's still one of the biggest money makers. You want to sell a product, you most likely you're going to go through hip hop because it touches everybody. You know, it doesn't have any color barriers when it comes to hip hop. Everybody loves it. It's a music that it touches everybody. So from a money standpoint, it's still one of the biggest ways to market your product is through hip hop. And as far as hip hop, it's still one of the biggest selling musics. Period. Like it's still. I know a lot of things is based on streaming and stuff like that now, but man, I can't even keep up with all the stuff that the youth is coming out with. You know what I'm saying? Like I hear, these mixtapes and the youth, the streaming thing is just bananas now because you don't need the middleman. So a lot of them are cutting through and they're just putting their stuff out there left and right. But hip hop is still a major force to be reckoned with. It's still that force, man. We still want to be heard. We still want to represent. And hip hop is a way to get our voices out there and our passion. We're just an extension from our forefathers. We're just an extension from our ancestors that came here on them slave boats. We want to be heard. And hip hop is that energy that comes out the mud. A lot of, hip hop can save your life if used effectively. You know what I'm saying? And it can end your life if it's not used effectively. So,
it's the language of the poor.
Yes.
It is the energy of the forgotten. Yes. And it is the power of the collective, which is, we're the poor are the majority on the planet. The majority of poor people understand what hip hop is because it is a frequency to which you can always hear desperation in it. You can always hear what you would want to aspire to be. There's a hope in the music itself, even before you get to the lyrics. There's and there's a belief in things that are not always visible with the eye. Hip hop just represents the idea of what's soulful, what gives you the idea of You always hear that proverbial selling your soul for goods, and hip hop is that one thing that makes you feel like a child or, or young, regardless to when you heard that moment. Just like if I put on a Roxanne album right now, it's going to charter me back to when I was 10 and heard it. Like that's the power in that music. Like it doesn't have an expiration date. We put those expiration dates on it. But what hip hop has done is allowed poor people to have a voice and be wealthy within that.
It's a place to showcase your skills, man. Early in the beginning of hip hop, and I'm speaking from a New York perspective, it really came out the mud. Like it was used effectively to stop people from being in gangs. Instead of fighting and killing yourself in the street, we battle ourselves with these mics. We battle ourselves on these turntables. We battle ourselves with the breakdancing. We're battled to see who's got the best graffiti thing. Hip hop really, especially in its early stages, like you did tap on, it does come from an energy of being poor and trying to find your way out of the ghetto and trying to find your way to be creative. But hip hop
and not poor mentally.
Yeah,
not
it's
poor
a little bit of everything though.
Right, but not poor mentally. Poor in the sense of we are the have-nots.
No, I mean that's the same way I'm talking. I'm talking from that same lane. I'm talking from the same lane. But what I'm saying is really that we're going to create something out of nothing. We don't have much. We're going to make something out of what little we got. And,
we're going to turn them lemons into lemonade. Absolutely. We're going to turn them chitlins into a 3-course meal.
That is hip hop. We are going to find a way to be heard. We're going to find a way to save ourselves. And that's hip hop. That's from its early stages. And we're showcasing that, and we're talented. We're going to show our talent, and we're going to do it our way. You know what I'm saying? Before it got commercialized, before it was commercialized and became a big entity, hip hop was in them streets, block parties, and the gymnasiums, and on the blocks. This is street level. You know what I'm saying? You're hearing it come out these massive sound systems, and people are spinning these records, and people are dancing and breakdancing. It's that energy, like you said. It's that energy coming from people from the mud that want to be heard, want to be seen. We're not flashy like the disco guys. We're doing something a little bit different. We're doing hip hop, but we're taking everybody's flow. We're taking everybody's music, and we're going to recreate it and make our own thing out of it.
Right, and it's a power that's unrivaled because hip hop has the ability to communicate with people like no other music. Disco is very musical. Classical music, very, very musical. Jazz, very musical. Even rock is probably one of the few that can be equated with hip hop because rock has the energy, has the that's why we were so kind of connected with punk music because punk had that same kind of energy in the sense of it wanting to rebel against the system. It was the rage against the machine before the rage against the machine. It was saying we may have everything. We may have the money. We may have, privilege and good schools, but y'all are doing these people wrong. And that's what that punk movement came out of. They were the misfits. And hip hop was the misfits. We didn't fit in school, we didn't fit everywhere, that we weren't wanted. So we were like, man, bump that. Let's create a space in which was good for us. And we turned being a misfit into, a damn, to aspire to be like, how could I become a misfit? How could I take some machines and turn them into something? Like we took machines, like you said, the DJ created the reason. It was the mother of invention for the MPCs, for the SB12s, because y'all were doing it first.
We were the human samplers.
Right. And that was amazing. Like, think about that. Like, we didn't have access to those multi-million-dollar studios. So that caused for an invention Well, if we don't have a studio, then we need a machine that will allow us to have the band. If we can't afford the band or the band space, let's create a situation in which we can have that all in a box. And hip hop did that. Hip hop is so important to the expression and the I heard an actor say, like Malcolm X was our manhood. Like hip hop was the manhood of the black man and was the womanhood of the black woman and people of color in general, and anyone that suffered in this nation. Like that was really our only way out of it. They killed all our leaders. We had very few left, and all we had was these streets, to play in. And to think, like I said, it just goes to show that, to your earlier point, regardless to what is given to us or what we're left with, we always find a way to turn that thing into a delicacy. If somebody's gonna open up a restaurant based on the recipes we came up with 20 years ago, I think that's completely and utterly amazing, not only to the culture, but it just says, like I said, I mean, I wanted this show to be about not only the people from our city and our sound and what our city and our sound represents, but to give insight, to get insight from others all over the world who, as well, they've influenced our sound as well. You're one of those people that, if you were born in like 78, maybe 76, there's no way in the hell and you're a DJ that Mixmaster Ice and influence you or make you feel like I could do that.
I appreciate that.
You were in that runaway train of DJs that gave zero fucks and were like, we're gonna do this our way. And yeah, man, it would be a complete insult if we did not, as a collective, salute those contributions. And if COVID has taught us anything, it is in the power of communication and just reaching out to people like yourself and creating this dialogue so that, once again, we're not continuing this idea of these people are over here, so we probably can't talk with them. Well, these people are doing this, and they're not relevant anymore. So let's deal with what's going on right now. Damn all of that. We need to talk to our people and show that these people are doing their thing.
Without the old, there could never be the new.
Right.
That's a fact.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. So, yes, Mr. Columbus, I want you to submit or send me a mix so that I could put on the radio station out here so they can hear what Mixmaster Ice is doing out here on the radio out here. So when you get time, when you get an opportunity, send me, like a 20-minute mix of what you're doing. And so I will play this on radio to let our people hear what you're doing out here. And like you said, bro, you're always welcome out here in Orlando, bro. There's enough people that will support and come out to what you're doing. So, there's always that.
I haven't been out there in a while, so I need to tap in Orlando, come out there and do a little something. I'm with that.
Yeah, man. We got some real hip hop down here, brother. So please believe me, bro. And like I said, bro, keep in touch. Don't be a stranger, bro. We support your move out here, man, and so keep doing what you do. So honored to have you on the show tonight, man. God bless you, man. And man, legend, a living legend, continuing to do his thing, man.
Hey, thanks for having me out here. Thanks for everybody that's tapped in and listening. If you're online on IG, make sure you follow me at Mixmaster Ice. That's pretty much where I'm at most of the time is on Instagram or even Twitter, but primarily Instagram. Just follow me at Mixmaster Ice. Let's chop it up. Let's network. Let's politic, whatever. You feel me? Salute to yourself, man. Thanks for the interview. And once again, thanks for everybody that's tuned in. Thanks to all our pioneers, because I wouldn't be here without the pioneers. Shouts out to to my boys, U.T.F.O, Kango, Doc, R.I.P. to the late great educator rapper, the whole 4-Force family, man. And on behalf of myself, Mixed Mass Ice, it's been a pleasure to chop it up with you, Rome, man. Looking forward to doing it again. All right. Peace.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Orlando loves you. And like I said, brother, thank you for coming on tonight. Give it up for my man, the legendary Hall of Famer, like no other, my brother, DJ Mix Master Ice. Let's go. Give it up, my brother. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Blessings, man. Stay blessed.
Yes, you already know, man. Hey, man, you know we had a real one on tonight, man. Inspired a lot of DJs to do their thing, man. We got to congratulate that. We got to give props to that. Thank you for everybody tuning in. We love that, man. Don't forget, we'll be back on next week, Monday, with some brand new guests. We're trying to do Black History Month upright. Shout out to all my people that know what time it is about the Sound of Orlando show. We love you. Continue to support. Go to our YouTube page. Go to our Instagram page. Like and follow on our page on Facebook, man. Hey, let's just keep doing what we do, man, regardless to what. Let's go. Love y'all.
Live on stage, the sound.
Orlando.
So, if they ready, the sound.